Thank you. So first item of business is record of attendance. We've all signed in. Everybody's here. I'm glad to see you all this evening. Next is the conflict of interest declaration. Does anybody have any conflict of interest they wish to declare for items on the agenda this evening? I'll ask and take a look. I see no one. Thank you, folks. And first item of business for voting is the approval of the agenda. And we have a few revisions and additions to the board agenda that have been handed. The item 8.1, we have a withdrawal of request for presentation. Move item 11.3, the naming of the new high school in Eastern Passage, to
right after the minutes, after 5.
Okay.
Before the chair's report.
Between the approval of the minutes and the chair's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you, Jin. We can certainly put that in there. Revise item 11.2 motion by removing the first bullet and replacing the word 3 with 2 to reflect that, and replacing the word September with fall. Just pause for a sec so people can keep up. Move to add 11.4, motion to bring governing board opening statement on acknowledgement of traditional territory into alignment with the recommended acknowledgement statement from the Policy Development and Review Committee. So what that is if the acknowledgement of Mi'kmaq territory goes through to classrooms, it will only make sense for us to reflect that here as well. So we'll make our topic align. And when it comes to that item on the agenda, I will be moving a motion to suspend the rule of order to allow the motion to be considered. And since this is an amendment to the bylaws, also waive the notice of motion requirement for this to be considered. So just to let you all know. Anybody else have any comments on the agenda? Any amendments? Any questions about those? Seeing none, I look for a question on the agenda. Oh, sorry. Move the agenda, Jin, and seconded by Cindy. All those in favor of the agenda as amended? And motion carries. And the approval of the minutes. So those were distributed in your package. Does anybody have any comments or omissions on the minutes from May 31st? Jin, you're lit up. Is that from previous? Okay. Okay, I look for a mover on the minutes. Jennifer, and seconded by Bridget. All those in favor of the May 31st minutes? Excellent. And then the first item would be the naming of the new high school. Susan Tomey, welcome to the mic.
Chair Wright, Superintendent LaRue, and board members. This is a wonderful surprise because we thought we were going to be up a little later on, so thank you very much. I do have guests with me tonight assisting with the discussion around this. I'd like to introduce Pat Savage. He is the appointed principal of the new high school in Eastern Passage. And also with him, he has 3 members of his committee who assisted with the naming of the new school. So welcome and thank you for coming. In your package, you will find the report. Pat led this process with a team of 4 community members and a student from the feeder schools of the new high school. The committee worked closely with the feeder schools through our board website and social media to get the word out on how to submit names for consideration for the new school. The committee received 181 submissions, representing about 75 possible names. They worked to review the names and discuss all the submissions. There are a couple of things that really stood out. There were numerous submissions related to either the view of the school, in many different versions of that, or identifying landmarks in the area and the theme of nautical life. There was another large group of submissions that were related to the location, so something related to Eastern Passage, or to prominent members of the community of Eastern Passage. You have before you the committee's recommendation in order of priority, and the committee would like to choose Island View High School as their number one choice. On the screen, I think you can see it, you will see a picture from the back of the school. And the back of the school will be primarily all glass. The school site affords a view of 3 islands at the mouth of the Halifax Harbour: Devil's Island, McNabb's Island, and Lawler Island. The school's been designed with most public spaces in the building, the cafetorium, the library, looking out over this view. It is the focal point of the site and the school's architecture. Pat and I will answer any questions you'd like to have about the report.
Thank you so much. Do I have any? Oh, we do have requested. No. Does anybody have any questions before we? Bridget.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. To either Mr. Savage or Susan. Were the community also involved in the naming, or just the committee? Was there a community meeting where people from the community came and talked about names?
I'll answer the first part, and maybe I didn't explain that. So through the feeder schools and the school board website and social media, they got the word out to all of the community, not just parents and guardians, on how to submit names. And they accepted names either electronically through our website or on paper copy to any of the feeder schools. Would you add anything to that, Pat?
I would just say there wasn't a community meeting.
Okay, that's what I was just interested in.
Yeah,
okay.
No, there wasn't. But 181 submissions was much higher than what we expected. We were very pleased by that number.
Oh, good. Okay. No, just wanted to ask. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Board Member Boutlier. Board Member Raven.
I'm just curious how the top 3 were arrived at. Was that popularity or votes, the majority, or some other way?
Okay. Pat, I'll let you answer.
As we mentioned, there were 181 submissions, and it came down to approximately 75 names. What we did at the second meeting as a committee was we decided we would come to the third meeting. Each member would come with 8 names from the list. So we were looking at the submitted names as they came in, discussing them, doing research on them. We came to the third meeting. Everybody put up 8 names that they thought were the best 8. We then looked for commonalities. Everybody had a chance to speak to every name that was on the board. Questions were asked. There was discussion. And then through a process, we eliminated names as we agreed that they weren't the name that we wanted. And there were times that we took weighted votes, but the weighted vote also had to be confirmed by consensus. So at the end, we would say, do we agree with the result of this vote before we would go on? We worked it down fairly quickly to about 5 to 8 names, and then the process took a little bit longer as we went through the final part. So we ended up with 3 names, which essentially represent 3 different. We didn't plan this, but they essentially represent 3 different ideas. One is the community name, Eastern Passage. One was the geographical uniqueness of the site and the view. And then there was a lot of historical names that were submitted, and eventually one came out as the most popular one. And the reason for that is that the person the historical name that came forward with the most support was someone who was from the community, had a link to education, and also was well known in the community.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Board Member Raven. Board Member Jakeman.
I just wanted to thank Mr. Savage and your team. I would just like to say his team, these are people in the community that keep stepping up every time to join these committees and help out in any way possible. So I think it's wonderful, and I thank them. And the pictures really don't do
the school justice, I have to say. If you ever get the opportunity to take a drive down to the community, it is the view is amazing. So the number one choice, the island view, really does make sense, and it sounds like it's a great choice.
Thank you, Board Member Jakeman. At this point, I have no more speakers, so would somebody like to move the recommendation? Board Member Jakeman? So we'll move the recommendation as worded in the report. And a seconder? Board Member Yee. Oh. So you... Yeah. So I'll read it. The recommendation is that the governing board name the new high school in Eastern Passage Island View High School. That meets your needs, both Jin and Nancy? Thank you so much. All those in favor of the motion as worded? Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all for taking the time to help us out with that. So next on the list is the best part of the meeting, to be honest. It's the chair's report. Yeah. Good Wednesday evening, everyone. I want to welcome you all to our last regular board meeting of the 2016-17 school year. It's nearly impossible to believe that an entire school year has come and gone in what feels like the blink of an eye. Next week, all of us in this room will be spread throughout our board attending graduations, honoring and celebrating the accomplishments of our grade 12 students. I wish each and every one of them success, health, and happiness as they head off on new adventures and start new chapters in their lives. Worth mentioning is that today is National Aboriginal Day. National Aboriginal Day. Throughout the day today, there were events in our fair city to celebrate the heritage, diverse cultures, and outstanding achievements of our Aboriginal friends and family. Through pure chance, our board is debating a motion tonight in recognition of traditional Mi'kmaq lands that we all live and learn on. In my time on the board, it is very rare that decisions we make at our board table are so easily traceable to a direct impact on students in schools. I'm excited to be involved with such a forward-thinking board and want to thank Board Member Raven for bringing this idea to the Policy Development and Review Committee, Jennifer Wallallen. I also want to take a moment to thank all of the staff that work in our system every day, not just those here at the board office, but those we don't see on Wednesday nights, from coordinators to secretaries, from principals to EPAs, from the superintendent and senior staff to our janitors. Thank you for making this your career choice. Thank you for helping my kids and the nearly 48,000 other kids who spend so many of their days in our schools. Thank you for taking the time to get to know our kids and make a difference in their lives. Without the hard work of all these people, we wouldn't be able to prepare our kids to meet their full potential. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge our student representatives and thank them for their dedication to our board and the students they represent. An example of that dedication is that Joseph has his final exam of his public school career tomorrow, but didn't want to miss the meeting tonight. So thank you both for your time, and I'm going to pause my comments for a second and give each of you an opportunity to make a comment if you wish. And if you say something nice about me, I can give you the bursary that we voted on last month. So Joseph, you want to go first?
For sure. Okay, I'd just like to take a minute to thank you all so much for how welcoming you've been, and it's been a really great opportunity to sit with you this past year, and I really have learned so much. I have some names here, actually the names of the student representatives who will be joining you next year. Thank you. So the first student representative is chosen from the HRM Council, and if you're unfamiliar with the HRM Council, it is a council that consists of all the student council presidents from all the high schools in the HRSB, and they get together and they elect one person to sit on the council. This is me. They elect one person to sit on the board, and that will be Kaylee Weber from Sackville High, and I know her personally, and she is a really great person, and I'm sure you all will love her. And we also have Jonathan Hage from CPA. So the second representative is chosen from alphabetical list of schools. So that's why we were lucky to have Samantha join us this year from Auburn. And next year we will have Jonathan from CPA. And I'm sure that you will all show them the kindness and welcomeness that you show in us, and that they will love it just as much as we have. So thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. And Samantha.
Thank you, guys. I just wanted to say that I've learned so much and had a really great time sitting on the board this year, and it was so great to meet all of you. So I just want to say thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. And to conclude my remarks for tonight, I want to take a moment to recognize someone who will soon be leaving our team. As we all know, Lance Bullock will be retiring at the end of June. Lance's educational roots run deep. He has been an employee of the HRSB and the predecessor Halifax County District School Board since January 1990. Many of us know him in his current role as Senior Staff Advisor, a position he has held since August 2015. Prior to his time in this role, he served a number of teaching and administrative positions, including teacher, vice principal, principal, facilitator of student services, and coordinator of student services. And that was just there to get me unable to talk. She sells seashells on the...
You're so emotional.
I'm really sad to see you go. His first job upon hiring was as a work orientation workshop coordinator in various high schools in Halifax County. If we had time, although Lance only has a couple of weeks left, so probably don't have time, I'm sure we'd all love to hear more about that particular job. As his career has advanced, he has had his hands full trying to help board members whenever we are stumped. Lance, we will be sad to see you leave. All joking aside, we are going to miss you, Lance. You have proven to be a tremendous resource for the board. Your in-depth knowledge of the system and your approach to problems, both big and small, breed confidence in those around you. Yours are big shoes to fill, and I'm not saying that just because you have size 25 feet. I know you will miss us, well, some of us, maybe them, but that void will be filled many times over with the time you will now have to spend with Carol Ann and your children, Stephanie and Max, and your new adorable grandbaby Lila. And we'll take a break in about an hour so you can show everybody pictures. So thank you very much, Lance. It's sad to see you go, but I'm glad you're moving on to family life and bigger and better things. Anyone else want to take shots at Lance? No? This is your chance. Okay. Okay, thank you. Elwyn, would you like to take shots at Lance?
No, thank you. We have a respectful workplaces policy.
Fair. Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, board members, ladies and gentlemen. Happy to acknowledge that this is National Aboriginal Day, and it's also our last regular board meeting for the 16-17 school year. I have before you a report for June. I do want to highlight two specific videos to show stories, although there are many others in the report, and we'll get to those almost immediately. I do want to note, though, because this is an opportunity to share this publicly, HRSB is hiring. That's an important message for us to get out. In fact, through the month of June, we've posted more than 880 jobs. As you would know, we have a full-time, part-time, and casual workforce of more than 9,000 employees. This year, we anticipate growing that workforce and certainly want people to be aware that on our website there's an employment link, that there are details about our postings that happen regularly on Wednesdays at 4 o'clock. And in very simple language, if you're looking for a job in HRSB, the time is now. The place to look is on our website, and if you have any questions, please reach out to our Human Resources Department. We're looking for you as much as you are now looking for us. I also wanted to acknowledge in our report that as we go to the end of the school year, from grading ceremonies to graduation ceremonies, one of the things in Nova Scotia we're working on is a hashtag with Twitter called Ready for My Future. So we're looking forward to graduates sharing the stories of what they're planning to do, and that's a provincial initiative, but I wanted you to make sure to be looking into that. Hopefully it will be as possible as the See What I'm Learning hashtag. That's still very, very popular. And finally, before I start telling you about the stories and the goals in our report, I do want to offer thanks. The chair has offered many thanks throughout our system. In addition to that, I want to thank those people who have stepped up bravely to welcome someone with a recorder in their classroom to be able to illustrate the stories of teaching and learning that are happening throughout our school board. I've said many times, brave is the teacher who allows someone in their classroom to show what good practice looks like today, because likely in 5 years it will be an example of what not to do. But we're very excited that people are opening their classrooms to be able to illustrate what public education looks like. It's very important to the strength of our public education system. This year, through the superintendent's report, we have published 54 original videos showing what's happening in our classrooms aligned to our board. Someone pointed out to me recently at the ILA graduation, which I'll show you later in the report, a quote from Brené Brown that says, "Maybe stories are just data with soul." So I think that's one of the reasons that we see storytelling is so important. It is data. It's data with soul. So that's something for you to reflect on. In recognition of National Aboriginal Day, we do feature some of the articles about what's happened recently in the news with the medicine pouches, that is particularly featuring Millwood High School, so I'd encourage you to have a look at that. What I want to show you in a video, though, is with Goal 1 and what's happening at Graham Creighton Junior High School. As you would know, we have a pilot program from the Department of Education Early Childhood Development at Graham Creighton called Discovering Opportunities. That program is the precursor to O2, so it's really about grade 9 students having the opportunity to explore careers, modern careers, thinking about apprenticeship, those kinds of things. In this video, they had a goal. They wanted to display the symbol, the picture of their school in the same frame as the curvature of the earth. And I want to show you what they learned in doing that. It's an awesome story.
Here we have a satellite locator that'll help us once the balloon and the capsule land back on the Earth. This will send out a signal that lets us know where the balloon and the capsule actually are located. Right here is our spot for the GoPro, which we're going to use to take a picture of the Graham Creighton Junior High logo, which is right here. So that's just within the field of view of the GoPro. So we're going to get a picture of that with the curvature of the Earth, which would be pretty cool. And then right in this spot here, we're going to insert a Raspberry Pi, which is a type of computer that's very small, and we're going to hook that up to a temperature sensor so we can detect what the temperature is when the capsule is rising up through the atmosphere of the Earth.
It's going to go up to about 100,000 feet, and the goal of it was to get a picture of the curvature of the Earth, the blackness of space, and the Graham Creighton logo in front of it, so that Graham Creighton went to space.
These are hand warmers that we're going to put in the capsule to keep the batteries warm.
This is the parachute for when the balloon pops later on. This will help it not fall so fast and potentially damage the capsule and everything inside.
Hooking in the Wi-Fi up to my phone so that when I take pictures, I can get them on my phone.
You can see the pictures as it's going up today?
Yeah, I could watch it go up.
Oh, this is the letter for if we don't find the balloon. Dear Finder, if you're reading this, is because the Graham Creighton Junior High GEO class, located in Cherrybrook, Nova Scotia, launched a balloon into the atmosphere on June 2nd, 2017, and have never found it.
I was working on the temperature sensor, so I had learned some wiring, I had to learn some coding, and it was a pretty cool experience, yeah.
My main role was to find out if there's how to launch the balloon by watching other launch videos.
GoPro is plugged in. Can you check that?
Plugged in, yes.
Okay, it's a satellite secured.
Satellite locator is secured, yes.
If you touch it a little bit, it's not going to move around.
It's not going to move.
All right, guys, we're going to fill out the balloon. It's going to take some time.
Okay,
so here we go. The whole point of this project was for me not to do it. I said, you're doing it, I will guide you, but I'm not doing this project. So they said, well, we need helium. And I said, okay, I'll pay for it. You have to find it. Well, here he came up to me and said, here's the number. And I said, okay, we'll call. And his face turned white. He did call, and then he had to make a third, a fourth, and a fifth call. And it was like he was never nervous doing it the third and fourth time. There's a skill. It's like almost like the hidden curriculum that we're hitting there. These things that aren't outcomes, but that was an amazing thing. But in terms of outcomes, there's just so many that we're hitting. It's so cross-curricular in terms of working as a team, the English writing component of it, writing all the proposals, the sponsors team, the letter that was in the capsule, and then the science component was just unreal. The math component was huge, trying to find out the volume of that balloon and just everything involved. We have a satellite locator on there that's going to track it for about 50,000 feet. Once it gets back above 50,000 feet, we lose it. Comes back down. Balloon's going to explode. It's going to come back down into the parachute, and it will land somewhere around Sherwood County.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Away!
When we go get it, hopefully we get a signal telling us that's where it is. We'll go get it, we'll open it up, we'll take the SD card out, we'll look at the video. Together as a class, we were planning on bringing the whole school down, doing kind of like a reveal party, showing them what we got, and having some fun with that.
So this project made me think that I would like to be an engineer one day.
It felt great that I know that we can all successfully do something on our own without help of anybody else.
I'm really into things that fly, so it's tied into that, so I really like it.
It's not something you would ever think you'd do in school. You go to school, you think you sit in the classroom and just learn about things like this maybe, but you never think you'd actually do something like this. So it's pretty cool.
Such an interesting experiment. I feel compelled to show you just a touch of the video from the GoPro camera. I'll also let you know they were thinking it would land in Pictou, but it went into the atmosphere. It landed in heaven, Cape Breton. So they had to go there to get it.
10, 9,
I won't show you all of it, but again, it's the two-perspective view. I'll just go to the interesting... I do encourage you to go look at the rest of that. It's very interesting. But when helium goes up so high, it is going to pop. So this is also the way down. And that's it. Again, it's a great video to watch from beginning to end to see all of the experience. When we talk about makerspaces and coding, Raspberry Pis are little things that they use. So students were talking about how they're using that to collect data about temperature. And it's a very interesting experiment for the grade 9 class. And we thank John Monroe for creating that opportunity. Also, I'm going to move through quickly because there's one other video I want to show you in its entirety. But we have a shout out to Atlantic Memorial Terrace Bay for the Create project, which they do. It's a great art project. We'd provided a video for you to look into that. On the next page in my report, I wanted to show you the video that was referenced last week. Upper Elementary at Chebucto Heights, which wouldn't play. I did provide it in the report for your reference and your ease. I also wanted to give a shout out to Highland Park students as they invited board member Littlefair, myself, an architect, and Dr. Jody Bell Clark, all to come and see how they spent their time in technology education in considering designs for what they're looking forward to as a new North End Junior High School. It was a great opportunity, so we show that a little bit. Southdale North Woodside School had a farewell as they're moving out of their building, and they captured some video, which we're providing for you to have a look at. But we won't be showing that to you this evening. What I did want to spend a few minutes on was to let you know about the Achieve program. Last year, we made a decision to be part of the Achieve program, which is a transitional support program for students who graduate, and it provides additional support to students who would have a disability and bridges the gap between secondary school and job opportunities. So there's a wonderful video. We said we would look into that after its first year, see how successful it is, and I wanted to take the opportunity to let you see that this evening.
That was my last work experience at Building Futures, the Adult Service Center in Sackville. It built my confidence up a lot, actually, because I never really had the chance in high school to be able to do what I did here.
Where are you?
Right there. Stronger, way stronger. Like, I could trust myself more I can shine, and I never knew I could.
That transition from high school into what's next is a difficult decision, and there's a lot of choices to be made and a lot of pressures, especially so for students with disabilities.
I have chronic regional pain syndrome type 1, so it affects the right side of my body. It was really challenging in high school because I wasn't able to go on the co-ops. I wasn't able to have that chance to get out in the real world. So when I came here and I found about this program, they gave me the opportunity to learn new skills that I never thought I could actually do or accomplish ever. And then us all taking the bus together, and for example, being able to take the bus, just being able to go from one point on my own to another.
Life skills, like stuff I can use out there in the real world. Cooking, cleaning, bills, the apartments. I've learned what the real world is. It's all cupcakes and rainbows.
Being able to go down and bank, or learning how to, if I ever need to go find a place on my own, learning how to get an apartment, learn how to pay your rent.
Independence, a lot of independence, because I used to be like, keep to myself, shy, quiet, like I was in the shell, but now, cannot stop talking. I'm all over the place. I travel, just be in Sackville now. I go from Sackville to Dartmouth to Halifax, anywhere now, because that's what's helped me to build a lot of confidence.
The courses I was instructing had a lot to do with just the overall idea of wellness. We covered around personal wellness, relationships, which is a big thing for younger people, obviously. So all aspects of the whole person. The idea of focusing on financial management, budgeting, to be an independent person, what it's like to get an apartment, how to sign a lease, cooking. It's a big thing we all need as we kind of grow up and decide to move out, is the idea of we want to cook nutritious meals. So within the Achieve classroom, we actually have a cooking lab. And the employment piece is really key to the Achieve program.
I got my first job experience at a restaurant, actually, at the canteen. So I was pretty excited to start that, even though it was a bit rocky, but I wanted to try. I also worked at Building Futures, the Adult Learning Center in Sackville.
Home hardware down in Sackville to show, like, helping with customers, to, like, show, like, stock from here to there. One of them was office interiors, like, stock, move stuff, and like, to get from trucks, and I got to admit, I did gain a lot of muscle.
I feel a lot more prepared and a lot more comfortable going into a job setting.
Right now, I am doing is to improve my high school diploma, so I want to do that to help get a better job as well. So that's what I'm trying to do right now.
What's your dream job?
In social services, to help people with disabilities, drug addicts, the elderly, anything like that.
These people, I didn't even know them, and yet they gave me a chance. Even if I didn't really believe in myself in the beginning, they made me believe in myself a lot. To know that even if I fail, I can just get back up and keep doing it.
Like how Ron helped me, like, you can do this because you weren't born to do this. It helps you shop. It helps you find those little skills that you did not know you had.
Especially coming to the community college, it's a normalized goal. And that idea of social capital, they're a community college student, which was so key to their development and their sense of confidence. And then learning the skills they learned in a program like Achieve allows them to be better citizens, allows them to realize their goals, again, feel more confident in their abilities, and to have a better understanding what the expectations are as a young adult.
Last year, I didn't even really want to leave my own house at some days. And now when I came here the first day, I was a little nervous, but after coming here and being with the NSCC and being with the family, it made me feel part of something. It made me want to actually get up and keep going and doing more things with my life.
I would just be at home, like, curl off my own little bollock in a little shell, but now it's awesome. I'm out there all the time, and, like, I gained a new family. And that's, like, one of the most important things I have done so far here. That's why I say.
We learned a lot. The students were great teachers. They were, just showed so much passion in the program and became part of the Akerley community. Other students and other programs and instructors and staff on campus continually told me how positive it was to have our students on campus and how much energy and positivity they brought to the campus.
Best time of my life, I'd have to say. Yeah, one of the best times.
That's a very bold statement.
Yeah, and I'll stick to that.
So this is a partnership between the Halifax Regional School Board, the Nova Scotia Community College, and Department of Community Services. Again, we wanted to showcase that because it was a transition from programming that we made as a decision last year, and we're very excited about the progress that's being made. I am over time, so I'm going to go a little more quickly. In goal number 3 on the next page, I'm celebrating some of the work of the diversity team, some of the statistics on their progress this year, as well as their first steps to a culturally relevant pedagogy administrator's guide. At the bottom, I wanted to let us know that usually at this time of the year, we're talking about what might happen in the summer. As you know, we've seen a growth in bookmobiles over the summer, which is essentially adults from our school community working with students to make sure that reading continues in one way or the other in happy and pleasant community events through the summer. This year we're very excited about the work that's going to happen in the north end of Dartmouth with the Harborview community. They're starting a bedtime story and snack program. So not only is our literacy involved, but also our nutritionist, and we're going to weave in a lot of work about health. I also wanted to let the governing board know that, as with last year, our Welcome to Primary kits include a certificate from public libraries in Halifax. So by getting a library card, the library will give you a free book, and that certificate has been included in all of our Welcome to Primary kits. Finally, with goal number 4, we're acknowledging the final phase of the Auburn Drive Cole Harbour School review. We're also acknowledging that we're in the process of doing site selection for JL Ilsley and the completion of our Lights Off, Green On campaign. I did want to signal the governing board asked that I do some things nationally. Recently, in June 2017, the Canadian Education Magazine, in its focus on school closure, the president of the county local of the NSTU and I co-authored an article, submitted it, and that's available in the national publication Canada Education Magazine. Very happy about that. And finally, some shout-outs on the back page. I did mention earlier about the Nova Scotia Instructional Leadership Academy. We had a strong showing in Cohort 4. This is a formalized program of focused instructional leadership for our administrators, who are very happy with the graduates and the program as it's going. I participated recently in the Governor General's Canadian Leadership Conference. So because in honor of celebrations for Canada 150, the Governor General is accelerating this. It usually happens on a less frequent basis. But there was a panel recently in Halifax. I participated on that, talking about public education with the deputy, some community leaders and others to help them in their inquiry about public education. And certainly I wanted to let you know that students from our Serve It Up Culinary Arts program hosted that breakfast for us, which was phenomenal. And finally, congratulations and a shout out to Musquodoboit Rural High School's Robert Hammer, who was recognized with the 2016 Prime Minister's Award for Teaching Excellence. We didn't get the opportunity to do an interview and feature that, but we do look forward to doing that in September. Mr. Chair, with your indulgence, I'd also like to make an introduction for the governing board. As the board chair has recognized, our senior staff advisor, Lance Bullock, is retiring. We have hired a replacement for Lance, Mr. Steve Gallagher. As you know, I've written to you, who is the principal at Sir John A. Macdonald High School. Pleased to introduce you to Mr. Gallagher, who is with us this evening. He was unable to be here at the beginning of the meeting because of a school commitment, but if we do take a break later, we might get an opportunity to speak with him. Please don't scare him off. Wait till September. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Superintendent Leroux. Mr. Gallagher, I'm glad you didn't come until after my comments to Mr. Bullock, so it's nice to see you. Nice for you to join us. Board Member Littlefair, do you have any comments?
We're hiring. So far this June, we've posted more than 880 jobs. Overall, more than 9,000 full-time, part-time employees, blah, blah, blah. 9,000 plus 880, or the 880 are reflected in the 9,000?
Thank you. I think generally speaking, the 880 is in the ballpark of the 9,000. Allison's giving me the nod. Sorry, Tracy's giving me the nod. But I'll take the moment to have our website behind us. You can see at the top there's an employment link. So at any time you can go on and look under job postings, see what is posted there right now. And if we were to look, we would see that there's 191 EPA positions, 120 French teaching positions, et cetera, et cetera. Term teaching positions, 297. So there are lots of opportunities for employment with our board. We have been sending that out through our networks, but certainly it's an opportunity to feature that this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Littlefair. Any other comments for the superintendent or questions on the superintendent's report? None at this time. Thank you very much, Mr. Leroux. And next on the agenda is the public presentations, which there are none, as I indicated. So we'll move on to committee reports. Audit Committee. Board Member McKay.
So the Audit Committee met earlier this afternoon. We received a presentation of the audited financial statements for the fiscal year ended March 31, 2017, from the Director of Financial Services, Terry Thompson, and Jamie O'Neill, partner with the auditors, KPMG. The auditors presented the report to the committee. We also received a copy of the audited annual report of salaries and expenses for the fiscal year. In terms of results for the year, the board had a surplus in the general fund, was balanced in the supplementary fund, and schools used more of the school-based funds than they brought in this past year, resulting in a net excess of expenditures over revenue of $270,367. In order to meet the requirements of the Education Act, the board is required to accept and approve the audited financial statements and the annual report of salaries and expenses. So I have a few recommendations, and I was going to do it in block, but we have a change from what was originally put forward in the so I might read them out unless somebody has an objection.
No objection.
The governing board approved the designation of $4,326,434 from the general fund accumulated surplus as at March 31, 2017, as general fund capital amortization to offset future amortization charges for building capital improvements. That was one. 2, the governing board approved the designation of $123,342 from the general fund accumulated surplus as at March 31, 2017, as general fund program resources, schools, to facilitate the ongoing management of school instructional supplies and materials budgets carry forwards. The governing board approved the designation of $1,751,113 from the general fund accumulated surplus as at March 31, 2017, as general fund Citadel Theater amortization to offset future amortization charges for this asset. The governing board accept and approve the consolidated financial statements of the Halifax Regional School Board with a revision to the independent auditor's report to remove the paragraph entitled Other Matters for the fiscal year ended March 31, 2017. Finally, the governing board accept and approve the audited annual report of salaries and expenses for the fiscal year ended March 31, 2017.
Thank you, Board Member McKay. Did you want to move those on block?
Yes.
Okay. And seconded by Board Member Yee. Do I have any comments? Terry's obviously here to answer any questions. Yes. I said that and then looked and didn't see her and got scared. So I have nobody with questions, so call the question. All those in favor of the block item motions? Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, folks. Thank you for being here, Terry. Next on the agenda is the Policy Development and Review Committee. Policy Development Chair, Nancy Jakeman.
Thank you. I'm very proud to be bringing forward this motion from the Policy Development and Review Committee tonight. I'd also like to thank Board Member Raven for bringing forth this idea. My hope is that this demonstrates respect and helps to bring about the opportunity to educate all our children and leads to the empowerment of our Aboriginal youth. So I would like to move that the Halifax Regional School Board adopts the following acknowledgement of traditional territory to be used in its entirety in schools during their commencement address each morning and in board offices as part of any official ceremony or event. So the statement will read, "We acknowledge that we are in Mi'kma'ki, which is the traditional ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people."
And do I have a seconder for that motion? Jessica, thank you so much. Opening the floor to any questions or comments on that motion. Now's the time, folks. Oh, Board Member Rose, you were there and you were gone. And there again. Okay. Oh, give us a sec. Technical difficulties. Board Member Rose.
I just want to take a minute to quickly say that I am 100% in favor of this, and just that I think it's going to be a really positive thing for our students to hear them identified every morning. I think it's going to help with a sense of pride. I think it's going to be a great step to reconciliation, as long as the education is there to go with it, which is, it's good timing with the treaty education in the primary to sixes. And I'm interested to see where treaty education is for the rest of the grades. But I really think that it's going to be a really positive thing for our students.
Thank you very much, Jessica. Board Member Raven.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to mention, I'm sure everyone got a chance to read the email that was sent today from a list of educators who were in support of this motion, which I found very, very heartening.
Thank you, Board Member Raven. Any other comments before we... Oh, I see people coming and going. Board Member Hanson and then Board Member Beals.
Thanks so much, Mr. Chair. I just want to say I, too, am in favor of this, but as well, I think it's a good education piece for our students. And an acknowledgement, especially a primary one, can never be perfect, but it must be sincere and genuine. It must not be an end-all statement, but a statement for a new beginning. Acknowledgement is a first step, and I am for that acknowledgement.
Thank you very much. Board Member Beals.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I am in support of this motion, and will be voting in favor. The only concern that I would have is at some future date, if we look at what the impact this statement has had on not only our students but also our staff, and also the use of the word unceded Mi'kmaq territory. I think is something that we should, down the road, look at to bring full recognition and respect to our Indigenous community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Board Member Beals. Any other comments before we call the question? Seeing none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you, folks. Nancy, anything further from Policy Development and Review?
Just that our next meeting is September 20th.
Perfect. Thank you. Committee of the Whole, Vice Chair Littlefair.
Thank you. The last Committee of the Whole meeting was just last week. We received 2 reports, both from programming. One was to do with literacy strategy, and Allison, Tammy, and Paula talked with us about the staffing, curriculum, and instruction supports that have been outlined in the literacy strategy. That means, in specific, 2 new literacy lead positions, 10 literacy coaches, almost 27 early literacy teachers, and an expansion of reading recovery. And in addition, on the program front, the primary to 12 curriculum being clarified and strengthened all around. That was one of the 2 reports, and the other was novel programs at Jennifer's request, and I think that was an eye-opener for all of us. Maybe not eye-opener so much as just seeing it organized, all of it organized that way. So everything from the obvious and the best known programs implemented and supported by the department, right on through to this not comprehensive but extensive list of co-curricular and extracurricular activities, everything from edible gardens to restorative approaches, and Girls Soar, Sparks Fly Bikes at schools. So the full range from departmental to school level, and with public school program course offerings and locally developed courses in between. So vast array, tremendous richness, and a great report to have. Thanks, Allison. And that was it.
Okay. Thank you, Cindy. Anybody have any comments for Vice Chair Littlefair on the Committee of the Whole? Seeing none, Ad Hoc Governance Committee. Board Member Yee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, before I actually move the motion to approve the terms of reference, I do have a minor update to provide to the full board on the governance committee. Bridget, myself, and the corporate secretary, Selena, we met on Monday to talk about planning out or reaching out to the firm to get some professional development for the full board for coherent governance. We had a discussion, and Selena has agreed, or Selena is going to start the process of tallying or finding it from board members' availability, and also reaching out to the company of getting a quote. So once we get a quote, we'll certainly reconvene the governance committee and hope you'll consider it. And also, I reached out to the NSSBA executive director, had a positive conversation. She is certainly she's on a positive view if there is some collaboration between the NSSBA ad hoc governance committee and having PD for Halifax. There's certainly some collaboration. So the question is, can it work? Can the timing work? Can the committee, the NSSB committee, meet at the same time or the day after or day before? So we're certainly going to put that on our agenda, and I'll report more at committee or at this table. So that's my brief report. So I like to move on behalf of the committee the motion to approve the terms of reference, which is attached.
Thank you, Board Member Yee. Do I have a seconder? Board Member Beals, thank you. Any comments on that before we call the question? Seeing none, I call the question. All those in favor of the terms of reference? Any opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, folks. And that's it, Jin? Thank you, Jin. And NSSBA report. That would be you as well, Mr. Yee. Oh, you and Selena are in a fight. Yep. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have nothing new to add. I've reviewed my notes. We met. The last report was the full. I have nothing to add unless Vice President Wright, you have anything to add. But
nope, nothing at this time. I think we'll be meeting again. Yeah, I think what you've done tonight is reasonable. So
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yee. And correspondence, we have none on our agenda for this evening. Items for decision. The first item is 11.1, and I move that the Halifax Regional School Board bylaws be revised to include a section for information items in the Appendix A School Board Meeting Agenda Template. And just to speak to that very briefly, that just allows the executive, the vice chair, myself, and the superintendent and his designates to have the flexibility to schedule things in circumstances much like we had in this past year. Work to Rule challenged us in getting things scheduled, so we just want to give ourselves some flexibility in doing that. I look for a seconder to that motion. Board Member Jakeman, any comments? Board Member Yee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only question I have is that I'm assuming the template just includes a line of given opportunity, information items can be considered or can be done at a regular board meeting. My only question is, I know in some ad hoc conversations we've had that certainly you've said that the preference would be to move informational items in committee of the whole. What assurances are there with this motion that that could actually happen? Because I don't see the wording that it would prioritize. Like, my preference would be continue the tradition or continue the original bylaw is that information items should land on committee of the whole. I completely understand the flexibility that you might need to move them on the regular board meeting, but I would prefer that the preference or the first priority go to the committee of the whole. So how can you, yeah, so that's my preference, that's my personal opinion, but how would you address that? Or, yeah.
So I guess I'll ask you, Mr. Yee, if you're proposing an amendment, and if you would like to take a moment to talk to the corporate secretary, we could take a quick break to see if there's something that you'd like to amend to have that language reflect your desire to have prioritization to the committee of the whole. I mean, if it's your desire to formalize it to that extent, I think it's appropriate to take the time right now and figure out the language that would be appropriate to make sure we capture that.
So do we have the template on?
I guess my concern is if we just have a conversation about it this evening and pass the template, the appendix, the record of that will not be reflected in the
Yeah,
appendix.
true enough.
So